I want to read you something that a guest on this program said on July 25th. I am feeling hopeful, very hopeful, that we'll have in excess of 10 votes from the Republicans that we need. That was you on this program predicting in excess of 10. You got 12. What did it take to get those 12 to vote against their party position on this?
Well, I have to say that there were some Republicans who immediately joined on this effort. Susan Collins, Thom Tillis, Rob Portman have worked tirelessly with me to help get to the number 12. Well, we listened carefully, and we listened to questions, and we listened to concerns. We talked to outside stakeholders, and we're able to craft a substitute that met people's concerns and got us over the finish line. And I do want to make one point, which is, typically the party leaders actually put a vote recommendation on the tables in front of the well of the Senate. And in this case, the Republicans did not, and they deferred to Susan Collins, Thom Tillis, and Rob Portman to put their recommendation for the vote on passage.
When you look at where we were in 1996, in that same body, the United States Senate, with a Democratic president eagerly signing the Defense of Marriage Act when he was 18 points ahead in his reelection campaign and had some political capital to burn if it was going to cost him that. That is such a kind of perfect story of the way progress works in the Senate and how long it takes. If you don't have a 25-year window on these issues, you don't really understand how they move.
Yes, and I have to say that there are real couples across the United States who don't have 25-year windows. Mm-hmm. I think about the struggle for partnership recognition, because people need the tools to protect their families, whether that's hospital visitation rights, whether that's coverage on family insurance offered through one employer of one of the spouses, whether that is parental rights that flow from adoption or birth. All of these things are critical, and a marriage certificate confers a whole host of rights and responsibilities that were denied to same-sex couples and frankly, in years prior, to interracial couples. This Respect for Marriage Act makes sure that moving forward, people can have certainty that their marriages will remain valid, and people who marry in the future will have the opportunity to enjoy the obligations and benefits that marriage confers.
How urgent was this legislation before the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade? Because this is settled now, we thought, by the Supreme Court, and so it seemed that there wasn't a need for this legislation. But now that you see that this Supreme Court may be capable of anything, is that what really drove this passage?
Without question, it is the Dobbs decision overturning Roe versus Wade that drove the passage of the Respect for Marriage Act. I think that we believe that Obergefell, the 2015 decision declaring marriage equality the law of the land, was well-settled precedent by this point. But when you see the Supreme Court set half of America back as second-class citizens after 49 years of precedent in Roe versus Wade, and by the way, the legal and constitutional underpinnings that led to Roe versus Wade are strikingly similar to the ones that underlaid the Loving versus Virginia case, declaring that states could not ban interracial marriage, and the Obergefell decision saying that states could not bar same-sex marriage. So people were worried, very frightened, that the marriages that they rely on might not be considered valid in the future. And then, the Supreme Court, one justice, Clarence Thomas, went a step further and issued basically an invitation to litigators to take on a case and ask the Supreme Court to review Obergefell. And the Respect for Marriage Act will set those worries, those fears at ease.
Senator Warnock was not present today. He was campaigning for re-election in Georgia, so there were 99 votes cast instead of the 100. What does it mean for the Democrats in the Senate to have 50 senators or 51 if Senator Warnock wins his re-election campaign?
Rather than a 50-50 majority where you can only prevail on legislation or issues that require a majority vote when the vice president comes and joins the Senate to break the tie, having 51 votes will make a big difference, especially in committee. Right now, every single committee in the United States Senate has an equal number of Democrats and Republicans. That means so many issues get deadlocked and never see the light of day out of committee. Having one additional Democrat on many of those committees, if not all, will make a huge difference in terms of the ability to advance substantive legislation that is important to America.